Hello and welcome back to the Biochemistry for Health Sciences channel. In today's video, we shall discuss the regulation of blood calcium by vitamin D. In the last video, we discussed a little bit about the biochemistry of calcium as well as the calcium test, the serum calcium test. Today, we'll see how our serum calcium is maintained around 10 milligrams per deciliter. There are three major hormones that regulate blood calcium. This include calcitriol, which is a form of vitamin D, parathyroid hormone, as well as calcitonin. In this video, we shall look at how calcitriol, which is the most active form of vitamin D, regulates blood calcium. In the next two videos, we'll look at parathyroid hormone as well as calcitonin. Now, the synthesis of this active form of vitamin D called calcitriol involves several different organs, including the GI tract, skin, the liver, as well as the kidneys. Now, in the GI tract, cholesterol, which can come from food or bile, is converted into 7-dehydrocholesterol. The 7-dehydrocholesterol is then transported to the skin, and in the skin we have the cells, keratinocytes, which convert 7-dehydrocholesterol into precalciferol, also called pre-vitamin D3. And this is carried out actually by ultraviolet light around the 250 to 310 nanometer range. This precalciferol is then isomerized into cholecalciferol or vitamin D3 in the keratinocytes. Besides synthesis in the skin, vitamin D can also come from food. So vitamin D3, for example, can come from supplements as well as certain food. And then there is also plants such as mushrooms that are very rich in ergosterol. Now, this ergosterol is converted into ergocalciferol or vitamin D2, and this happens when the mushroom is harvested or during the drying process. So this means that the diet can give us vitamin D3 as well as vitamin D2. So this D2 that comes from the diet, as well as D3 that can come either from the diet or from synthesis in the skin keratinocytes, they are all sent into the bloodstream. And in the bloodstream, these biomolecules are not water soluble, so they bind and are transported in the bloodstream by the protein D binding protein or DBP. So these biomolecules D3 and D2 you can see associated with D binding protein, and that's how they travel in the bloodstream. So these biomolecules D2 and D3 are sent from the keratinocytes as well as from the GI tract to the liver. And in the liver, ergocalciferol, vitamin D2, is converted to calcidiol, which is a form of calcidiol, while the vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol is converted into calcifidiol, which is another form of calcidiol. And this reaction is carried out by the liver enzyme 25-hydroxylase, also called CYP2R1, which belongs to the cytochrome P450 family. So calcidiol that is formed in the liver is then transported out of the liver into the bloodstream, and this calcidiol is actually measured, and it's the most important test that helps determine the vitamin D status in the body. So when we say calcitriol, we really mean, technically we mean both these forms. Although clinically, most of the reference is usually to this form, calcitriol. Okay, so calcitriol is actually these two forms, although clinically this is the form that's usually referred to. In the next step, the calcitriol from the liver is transported to the kidneys. Now, in the kidneys, the enzyme 1-alpha hydroxylase will convert calcitriol into calcitriol, while the calcitriol is converted into calcitriol. So this reaction of converting calcitriol into calcitriol is carried out by the proximal tubule epithelial cells. So once again, technically, when we say calcitriol, there are two forms, this calcitriol and this calcitriol. Although clinically we simply use calcitriol when we talk about the calcitriol form of vitamin D. So you can see we have several forms of vitamin D in our bloodstream. We have the cholecalciferol D3, the ergocalciferol D2, calcidiol and calcifidiol, both of which are calcidiol, and this is what is done in the serum vitamin D test to measure the amount of vitamin D in the body. And then we have the calcitriol, which includes calcitriol as well as calcitriol, and this is the most active form that binds the vitamin D receptor with the highest affinity. So as mentioned, calcitriol is synthesized in the kidneys using the enzyme 1-alpha hydroxylase. Now there are several biomolecules that control the synthesis of calcitriol by regulating this enzyme here, 1-alpha hydroxylase. Low serum phosphate as well as parathyroid hormone stimulates this enzyme. That means there is more formation of calcitriol when our serum phosphate is low or induced by this hormone, parathyroid hormone. So PTH actually increases calcitriol synthesis. Now this enzyme is inhibited by calcitriol. So this is a feedback inhibition. Calcitriol will come back and inhibit this enzyme. Now high serum phosphate also inhibits this enzyme. Remember, low serum phosphate stimulates the enzyme. High serum phosphate inhibits this enzyme. Now there is a protein called fibroblast growth factor 23 or FGF23. This is a protein released by bone cells such as astrocytes and osteoblasts. And this protein is released when there is an increase in serum PTH as well as serum phosphate. And this protein also inhibits 1-alpha hydroxylase and therefore inhibits the synthesis of calcitriol. Okay, so once calcitriol is formed, how does it go and affect its target cells? Now, calcitriol is hydrophobic, so it will cross the plasma membrane very easily and enter the cytoplasm of the target cell. In the cytoplasm, it will bind an intracellular receptor, and we talked about intracellular receptors in video 7.4. And the intracellular receptor bound by calcitriol is called vitamin D receptor or VDR. So this calcitriol binds VDR. In the next step, the calcitriol VDR binds a receptor called retinoid X receptor or RXR to form this calcitriol VDR RXR complex. This complex then travels to the nucleus, and in the nucleus it binds vitamin D response elements, or VDRs, present in the promoter regions of target genes. And these are the genes that increase the expression of proteins that are involved in calcium absorption. Now, besides increasing calcium absorption, vitamin D is also known to affect membrane-bound receptors to trigger transcription independent, what we call non-genomic, anti-inflammatory effects, anti-tumor effects, and antioxidant effects. So vitamin D is involved not only in calcium absorption, it's also involved in many other processes, including inflammation, tumor formation, as well as antioxidant effects. So with respect to blood calcium, what does calcitriol do? It increases calcium as well as phosphate absorption from the GI tract, from the intestine. It increases calcium as well as phosphate reabsorption from the kidneys, and it also increases bone demineralization. So all of these effects is going to increase the blood calcium and phosphate levels. So calcitriol increases blood calcium as well as phosphate by increasing calcium absorption from the GI tract, by increasing calcium reabsorption from the kidneys, and by increasing bone demineralization. How does calcitriol increase intestinal calcium absorption? Well, the calcitriol will bind the VDR and the RXR in enterocytes. This will then translocate to the nucleus of the enterocyte, and in the nucleus of the enterocyte, this complex will increase the expression of tight junction proteins that we talked about in the last video, such as claudin 2 and claudin 12. And this increase in claudin 2 and claudin 12 will increase paracellular transport of calcium between the enterocytes. Now, this complex, when it travels to the nucleus, will also increase the transcellular transport. Increased transcellular transport of calcium from the GI tract cavity into the bloodstream, and it does this by increasing the expression of proteins involved in transcellular transport, such as TRPV6, cal binding, the calcium ATPase pumps, as well as the sodium calcium exchanges, all of which we talked about in the last video on the calcium biochemistry. So this is how calcitriol increases calcium absorption from the GI tract into the bloodstream. Now, calcitriol increases renal calcium reabsorption, especially in the distal convoluted tubule. Calcitriol, once again, binds the VDR and RXR, goes to the nucleus of these epithelial cells, and increases the expression of all the calcium transport proteins, once again, such as TRPV, calbindin, and so on. And that increases the calcium reabsorption into the bloodstream, which then increases the serum calcium. Now, it should be noted that calcitriol also increases phosphate reabsorption in the proximal tubule. And it does this by increasing the expression of sodium phosphate transport proteins. Now, how does calcitriol demineralize bone? Well, calcitriol once again binds VDR and RXR, goes to the nucleus of the the cells, these osteoblast cells, and in the nucleus of the osteoblast cells, it will bind to the genes for rank L, receptor activator of nuclear factor kappa B ligand, and that will increase the production and secretion of rank L by the osteoblast. Now, this increased production of rank L will cause the differentiation as well as fusion of the mononuclear osteoclast progenitor cells. So these cells here will fuse and will differentiate into osteoclasts. So more and more osteoclasts will be formed when calcitriol binds osteoblasts. So as more and more of these osteoclasts are formed, these are the cells, remember, that demineralize bone. So they will break down the bone and release calcium as well as phosphate into the bloodstream. So that's how calcitriol breaks down bone to increase serum calcium levels. Now, it should be noted that calcitriol can also promote bone mineralization. So calcitriol has a dual role. It can demineralize bone, which is more predominant during hypocalcemia, but it can also promote bone mineralization during bone formation by increasing the intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphate. So to summarize, calcitriol increases serum calcium as well as serum phosphate by stimulating absorption from the GI tract, reabsorption from the kidneys, and demineralization of bone. So this is how calcium is regulated by calcitriol. In the next video, we shall look at how calcium is regulated by parathyroid hormone. So until the next video, thank you very much for watching and supporting this channel. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next video.